Hello, so I want to say something really quickly. And I'm talking specifically about black women. Black women's biggest downfall is a man. The reason why black women are so low in consciousness, the reason why black women at this point right now, as we see it as most people see it in this reality, in this realm, they seem to have no spirit left. These young ladies right now that we see now, they are nothing like the women of old. And we used to talk about those old ladies and criticize them and how they were ultra religious and all that stuff. But I heard a guy say, I was listening to his live, he talked about how when grandma used to pray, you were protected, okay? But grandma was the same kind of woman that would be at the front of the church, though, okay? So people used to sit back and criticize these old ladies being at the front of those church mothers. Ricky Smiley made so many movies and shows laughing at these church mothers in this dress. But we know these guys as wear those dresses, that was probably, ritualistic too. And he used it as a way to laugh at the church ladies, the old church ladies. But, he had a dress on, so that could have been ritualistic too. But either way, people laughed at these old ladies at the front of the church. And I get it. They were extremely controlling, extremely judgmental. They would judge you more than they would pray for you, okay? But not all of them were like that. The way black women are right now, it's nothing like that. Those ladies had a lot of spirit. Those ladies had a lot of spirit. They were like the prophetesses, the old Sibyls. Like that book called The Sibyls, the prophetesses of Mami Wata, about Mama Zogbe. These old ladies, they were like those prophetesses, but they were Christians. But they still operated that same doggone way. Okay? But I'm telling you, black women, they are so low in consciousness right now because they need what you call it, what's the word? They need a man. It's almost like they need this support of a man. And what I mean by that is I'm not talking about I'm not saying people shouldn't get married and people shouldn't be in relationships with. I'm saying that they constantly need the validation of a man. When I have to go back and read that book by Mama Zogbe again, The Prophetesses of Mami Wata, and how the black women turn their backs on their own divinity to prop up the man. I mean, obviously the black man, okay? And because also in that book that says before the white man even hit the shores of Africa, it was a gender war between the black woman and the black man. The black man wanted the power. It was at that time black women were in power. Okay. They were on the throne. Black men wanted to be on the throne, but black women are the ones that taught these men the mysteries to prop them up like that. Okay. Why would black women want to prop him up and then so she can worship him? And then he got to turn around and uplift her. You know what? Black men should not uplift. Let me tell you why black men should not uplift black women. Because black women were on that throne first. And black women were on that throne. There was no man to uplift them. They were already placed there. They were first. And if they were first, they should not need no black man or no man to uplift them. They gave up that spot to prop this man up and taught him all the mysteries. And now you turn around and you need him to uplift you. No, you don't. No, you don't need him to uplift you because you came before he did. So you don't need him to uplift you. Okay? Like you're the one that propped him up and taught him everything. He didn't teach you. You taught him. And now you lost yourself. And when I say that, I'm speaking like black women in general. It's not me talking about anybody in particular, right? Now they lost themselves. Like black women are literally turned into complete, and I mean this in the best way possible. And the reason why is because I realize I keep saying this as the afterlife for me. Okay, this is somebody's subconscious mind. Ain't no real world created with a world like this. This is in somebody's subconscious mind, and their consciousness have got to this point of this particular realm in their subconscious mind. And in a person's subconscious mind, it looked like a bunch of planets. It looked like worlds and all that stuff. This is somebody's subconscious mind. She's like, she has been unconscious for a few hours, but it seemed like it's been forever. But she is, a person in a different world. When they, it's like the Wizard of Oz. Days and days and days can go by, and years can go by, and when you wake up, you find out you only been out like a couple of hours, right? That's how that is. Because if you in your subconscious mind, the years ain't gonna be the same as in the real world. Okay, 100 years go by, you only been, and you done grown up and had 3 lifetimes or whatever, incarnations, and you wake up and you been out 6 hours and that's it. Okay? But what happened was something happened to disconnect you from yourself. It's not like a regular sleep, right? It's a coma. Unconscious. She's unconscious. And this is a part of the world that she's in. This is the consciousness, what her consciousness is. And how did she get there? Women, it's nothing, like I said, it's nothing wrong with being with the man. I'm not trying to say not be with a man, but what black women specifically, because that's all I'm talking about. I'm not talking about no Asian women or no white women. I don't know them. I don't know white women like that. I don't know Asian women. I don't know Latino women. I don't talk about them because I don't know their business like that. I do not know them. Okay, so I don't talk about them. I'm not going to have that much to say about them because I'm not around them. Now, I'm around them as far as working and living in the neighborhoods, but I'm not in their houses. I'm not on the phone. I don't know them like that. I see them in public all the time. I see them at work. I don't have friends at my age. I ain't talking to nobody on the phone. Like, I'm past that. I'm not in high school. Okay, so I don't know them. I'm not talking about them like that because I don't know them. I don't know their business. I don't know white folks' business like that. Okay, I do know black women. Okay, and this lady who is in a different world, in the real world, but she fell into either unconscious or a coma or whatever. She's at this lower state like this because of a heartbreak from her husband. And when you have this type of stuff weighing on your heart, you got to clear that up before you transition, because wherever it's weighing the heaviest in your heart is where your conscious awareness is going to end up, and it's going to be like it's a different world. Like, you don't stop. You don't stop. Your conscious, your soul, you go somewhere else. Okay, and so anyway, but this is why the Most High should always come first. It's not to say that you should not get married. It's not to say, because what if a man could be with a man and a woman could be with a woman, right? But if you made that person the center of your world and they hurt you, it can still do the same thing. But what I'm talking about with black women specifically, their downfall is just men. And I'm just going to go down a timeline and tell you how it's just men. First of all, they put this man on the throne and taught him the mysteries, and he's been trying to replace her with the white woman ever since. That's first things first. He has been trying to replace her with the white woman ever since, or just replace her. Not even with the white woman, just replace her. Like, anything but a black woman, okay? Anything but a black woman, okay? And then we see, like, this is just from my time, because I'm Generation X. I was born in the 70s. I remember in the 1980s kept hearing black men specifically say that black women were not freaky enough in bed. They don't do oral sex, and they were not freaky enough in bed. And the reason why they were going to the white woman is because the white woman would do a lot more in bed. That's what I remember. And I was just a child in the 80s. I was growing up in the 80s. In the 80s and the 90s is when I grew up. Okay. Like, I was in my 20s in the late 90s. So I was growing up in the 80s and the 90s. Okay. And I remember that as a little girl. I can't make that up. I was a little girl. I wouldn't know nothing about that. I heard grown black men saying this about black women, that they were not freaky enough in the bed, and they went to white women because white women would do anything they want them to do, including anal sex. Now, then I heard somebody else talk about, oh yeah, I was listening to this lady's video talking about how a lot of black men that are, like to have anal sex with other men, blame black women again. They blame black women because they say black women don't want to have anal sex, and so they go in and have sex with other men because black women don't want to have anal sex. See, and black women because she is so desperate. There's a desperation for the black man, but I know why. Because she turned her back on her own divinity. Black women, I believe they were the only ones that were not born under the yoke of patriarchy. Like, all other women were born under the yoke of patriarchy. And I'm not talking about generations like me being born in the 70s, obviously was patriarchy at that time. But I'm talking about when black women just, the origin. It wasn't under the yoke of patriarchy like these other women. And for her to give up her divinity, her spirituality, to worship this black man, I see why she does everything he's saying, why he controls her. I just feel like that's punishment. I feel like that's a curse and that's punishment for giving up your first love for a man. I feel like that's punishment. And this continues to be a curse on the black woman. And anything he says, she does, even if it's going in the ditch and covering herself up, she would do that to make him happy. She would do it. She's under a curse because she turned her back on herself for this man to lift him up. And it's like anything he tells her to do, she is going to do it. When I say she, I'm talking about black women, not just any. Like, you have some black women that's, like it's an individual black woman that's not going to do that, obviously. But it's a whole lot of if you want to talk about the collective, most of them are just, they're not going to, they will stone another black woman if they try to, for a black man, okay? But, like, look at how black women are right now. Like, black women have allowed these guys to drag her all the way just completely into the dirt. Because even before I was born, black people, the black culture was like a pimp culture. They worshipped Goldie from the Mac, Superfly. So this was before I was born. Like, those were like the early 70s. I was born in the late 70s. But so you had a pimp culture around that time. What if you would have had a culture where the Poindexter type of the nerd was more praised? If you would have had a culture where the black man that was a nerd that was more praised, or even a guy like James Evans, like off Good Times, something like that, like a hardworking man, but he was a real man, hardworking real man. Or even Bill Cosby. I mean, I know the real Bill Cosby did his own thing, but you didn't know that until recently. I'm talking about the Bill Cosby the way you saw him on the Cosby Show. If those kind of men were pushed to the front, you would have a totally different black community. And you wouldn't even have the kind of music that came out. Because when you got the Sexy Reds and the Megan Thee Stallions and the Nicki Minaj's, let me tell you, that started, where did that start though? That's still hip hop. Okay, that's still hip hop. But anyway, but yeah, so I just said it to say that black women's need for validation constantly from the black man has allowed black women to get to this point. And it's not to blame the black man, because they are the ones that turn their back on their own divinity to prop him up. And now they constantly need his validation, and they're not getting it from him. And they do anything he say. I don't care what anybody say. It's unusual. It's nothing wrong with wearing extra hair on your head and wearing weave and all that stuff. Like I like everybody wears extra little hair pieces. Even I've seen Asian girls do it to make their hair look thicker sometimes. Like if it's a special occasion, I've seen them do it. But black women, a lot of them, especially when I see their videos, okay, not necessarily like in person, but especially when I see their videos and stuff on YouTube or whatever, a lot of them cannot really let anybody see their own hair. I have not seen, when I was growing up in the 80s and the 90s and even in the early 2000s, black women wore weaves. Well, in the 80s, I ain't hardly ever seen no black women wear no weaves. They wore their hair. In the 90s, sometimes black women wear weaves, but most of the time they wear their hair. You still saw them wear their hair, even though they put weave on their hair, you still saw them wearing their hair. And it got to a point where black women just always had to have weave on her hair. She always had to have her real hair covered up. So you gotta, it's going to the point where this is a need for validation. Why do you always have to have your real hair covered up? And the thing is, it's not like black women are bald headed. They're not bald headed. A lot of black women that keep putting all that stuff on their hair, their natural hair is like past their shoulders, and their natural hair is thick and it's past shoulder length. A lot of black women have some nice, pretty, thick hair, and they always have this need to continue to cover it up. Every single time, like nobody can ever see their real hair. And that's not how I remember growing up. Okay? That's not how I remember growing up. I remember growing up, most of the time, when I was growing up, black women did get perms, so they did get perms. Okay? Or straightening combs, okay? Something like that. But it was still your hair. It was still your hair. Because, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. Some people with 4C hair, you're not going to be able to do anything but put your hair in an afro or wear braids. Because if you have 4C hair, if you're not doing anything to straighten it, you're just going to only be able to wear an afro. I mean, I have 4C hair. And if it's not straightened in any kind of way sometimes, the only thing you're going to be able to do is just wear an afro. It's no other different style but an afro and braids. And even if your hair is past your shoulders, it's always going to be so curly to the point where it's going to look like an afro. And then when you straighten it out, it goes past your shoulders. But if you ain't ever going to straighten it, it's going to look like a big old afro. It's like only thing you do every day is to have an afro. And you know, goodness well, you can't go to work like that in the United States of America. You cannot have a job like that. Okay, you can't have a job like that. They won't allow it. I mean, this United States of America is not ran by black people. Okay. But anyway, so I can understand the straightening part, because otherwise you're just going to always have an afro. That's it. If you have 4C hair, you know. But it's time for me to go. It's late. I just feel like talking about that really quickly. But what black women need to do is get back to who they really are, turn back to their first love. And when I say love, I'm talking about who they originally were, like their original selves, okay? The real them. Okay, remember who they were. So yeah, I just feel like briefly talking about that, and I will talk later.